Sorrel McMullen, and I am here in the S472 newsroom about to bring you live footage from a court case here in New Orleans. We all are aware of all the horrible things that happened during Hurricane Katrina, but there's one man's story that you may not have heard about.
Zeitoun was a caring man who stayed behind during Hurricane Katrina to watch over his business and own home while his family left for safety. As conditions got worse, Zeitoun helped rescue many people and animals in his neighborhood with the help of a canoe that he had previously bought. In a very wrong turn of events, Zeitoun and other men from his neighborhood were accused of looting and were arrested on the spot to spend more than a month in a makeshift jail in a New Orleans bus station called Camp Greyhound.
Zeitoun is currently in a legal battle with the mayor of the city and the officers who made his arrest. Let's go live with Kelly at the courthouse. Kelly?
Thank you, Sorrel. We're here live outside the courthouse where the trial between Zeitoun and several police officers as well as the mayor of New Orleans is taking place inside. Let's go and check it out. Here inside the courthouse, Zeitoun is about to take the stand to testify against the actions that were committed against him during Hurricane Katrina.
In the matter of Zeitoun versus the City of New Orleans, plaintiff, you may call your first witness.
Mr. Zeitoun, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 47 years old and I'm originally from Syria. I came into the United States in 1994 and moved to New Orleans. I have been with my wife Kathy for 11 years and we have 4 children. I own my own company, Zeitoun Painting Contractors, and I also own several properties in New Orleans and house tenants in those properties.
Could you expand a little bit more about why you felt like you needed to stay or why it was your purpose?
Well, I felt like staying in New Orleans, it was an act of God. It was God's plan to have me there in New Orleans. Me and my canoe out there in the elements, we came across a lot of people in need. I helped rescue a lot of people. I fed some dogs that had been left behind. I passed out food, passed out water to people, and checked on my properties and my tenants. I just felt like I was supposed to be there.
And could you explain to us, Mr. Zeitoun, about what exactly was your experience regarding your arrest and your imprisonment?
Well, the day I got arrested, I was visiting one of my rental locations, the Claiborne House. I was on the phone with my brother, Ahmad, who lives in Spain. I was about ready to call Kathy, and Nasir, a friend of mine that was also at the house, yelled for me to come down. I came downstairs, and there were police officers at the door. They forced us into the boat, fan boat, and I assumed that we were being evacuated, that we were being forced to be evacuated, but I was never told where we were being taken. Once we got to land, we were forced to the ground. We were tied, our hands were tied behind our backs, our feet were tied. Once again, not knowing what was going on, not being told if we were being arrested, what was going on. We were forced into a van. We were taken to the bus station, and then I really thought we were being evacuated. However, we got into the bus station and we were the only people there, surrounded by guards, police officers, military. They all had guns. Then we were all questioned, and finally we were told that we were being taken captive because we were Al-Qaeda. This really upset me. I mean, I've been fortunate enough since 9/11 to not have been discriminated against, but this was the first occurrence of that. My fingerprints were taken, my photo was taken, then I was stripped down and I was searched. It was extremely humiliating for me. And then I was taken to an outside jail that had been made, a prison, and Todd and I were put in the prison, and it was about a 15 by 15 cage, and only with a portable toilet. I didn't sleep, obviously. I was thinking too much about Kathy, about the kids. I prayed for them every night. Eventually I was moved to a different prison. There my health began to decline severely because of all the stress I was under. And it was extremely unbearable. It was the worst experience of my life.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Up next, we're going to hear a testimony from Zeitoun's wife, Kathy, who had to undergo a lot of stress, pressure, and heartbreak during the Hurricane Katrina crisis.
All right, Kathy, have you noticed any changes with your health since Katrina?
Yes, the first thing I noticed was my physical appearance. Just weeks after I lost contact with my husband, I noticed that I had lost weight. When I looked in the mirror, it was shocking. I all of a sudden had gray hair, and before Katrina, I had no gray hairs. And then all of a sudden, I had this thick silver streak on the front of my hairline. Now, however, I have more problems with my memory. I'll be at the bank, write a check, and go down to write the second check and not know what the PIN is for, not know what the checkbook is for, and I'll just be frozen in confusion. I set up the computers myself at my home, and I had to ask my oldest daughter for help the other day. I couldn't figure out where the wires went and how everything connected.
The next testimony is going to be from Alvin and his wife, Balua, an elderly couple who were stranded in their house during Katrina and the flooding, who were rescued by Zeitoun after being ignored by the National Guard.
Mr. Williams, how did you know Mr. Zeitoun before the storm?
My sister enjoyed Kathy's cooking, and so around mealtime, Kathy always had a plate saved for her.
What exactly did Mr. Zeitoun do for you after he found you?
Well, he paddled in his canoe to Memorial Medical Center, but the National Security Guards there turned him away and told him to go to St. Charles. When he reached Napoleon in St. Charles, 2 other soldiers told him that they would be back within the hour to help us. However, my wife and I waited for hours and no one came. Luckily, Zeitoun came back to check on us when we were still there, and he had been able to find a motorboat that day, and so he was able to take my wife and I to Napoleon in St. Charles.
We were just so lucky to have him there. Who knows when we would have found help if he didn't come along.
It is getting intense in there, Sorrel, with all of these testimonies against the crimes of New Orleans. Next up to testify is Mayor Nagin, who's been accused of several wrongdoings towards Zeitoun and the other citizens of New Orleans during Katrina.
Mr. Nagin, how do you feel that you handled the disaster during Katrina?
You know, I'm sure I could have done a lot better, but there's one thing I'll tell you, and that's I was there.
Yes, but is there anything that you wish you could have done differently?
I think as mayor of the time, I did everything possible known to any mayor in this country as it relates to saving lives.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Your witness, Counselor.
Mr. Nagin, there are reports of you publicly pleading for help from the country during Katrina, and the people of New Orleans reelected you for another term, obviously pleased with your actions during the city's disaster. However, recently you have been charged with 21 counts, including bribery, corruption, wire fraud, and filing false tax returns. What are your comments concerning these charges?
You know, there were a lot of desperate situations during Katrina. I did what I had to do for my city, and you weren't there. I was.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Next up to the stand are going to be Officers Lima and Gonzalez, who were the arresting officers for Zeitoun during the hurricane.
Can you please explain your role in Mr. Zeitoun's arrest?
I was the lead cop in the arrest.
And what prompted this arrest of Mr. Zeitoun?
Approximately 2 days before the arrest, I witnessed 4 men leaving a Walgreens carrying some items out. I was not able to pursue the suspects at the time because I had 2 rescuees with me, but I did see them leave in a blue and white motorboat. On the day of the arrest, I was making rounds and I saw the very same motorboat parked outside the Claiborne house. I immediately went back to our staging ground and gathered some police and officers to apprehend the suspects.
Lima, so you're telling me that the only reason that you arrested these men is because there was the presence of the motorboat?
No, that's not what I'm saying. There were 4 men leaving the Walgreens, and there were also 4 men in the house, and there appeared to be a lot of electronic goods on the dining room table that appeared to be stolen.
But you aren't sure that the 4 men that you saw stealing were the same 4 men in the house?
No, I'm sure.
What about the goods? What goods did these men steal from the Walgreens?
That I'm not sure of.
All right, so you have no idea what kind of goods were stolen, but yet you're positive that Zeitoun was one of these men. I mean, how can you be so sure? You barely glimpsed these thieves, and you glimpsed them from a distance.
I mean, there was also the assortment of the goods on the dining room table.
But you also said that you have no idea what they stole, so what made you think that the goods were stolen?
I mean, why else would there be a huge pile of electronic goods on the dining room table?
Maybe because the entire city was flooded, and there was nowhere else to put them except on the dining room table.
Objection. Harassment of the witness.
Sustained. Counselor, please continue your questioning.
These goods that you saw on the table were not customarily sold by a Walgreens, correct?
That is correct.
And no stolen goods were ever actually recovered from the Claiborne house, is that correct?
Yes, that is also correct.
In fact, you never even secured the house as a crime scene.
No, but the conditions of New Orleans after Katrina did not allow for the same amount of thoroughness.
So is it or is it not true that you arrested 4 men just because of the presence of a motorboat and not because you actually had any hard evidence that a crime had been committed?
Yes, there was a motorboat, but there was also the demeanor of the suspect.
A yes or no answer will suffice, Mr. Lima.
Yes, the presence of the motorboat was the only hard evidence that we had.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Can you please state your name and tell us how you know Mr. Zeitoun?
My name is Gonzalez, and I was one of the officers present for his arrest.
Please, go on.
I was an officer for 21 years before Katrina hit. We heard about the damage it was going to cause in New Orleans, and our captain suggested that a team of us go to New Orleans to help. I thought I was doing my duty to help out.
You were helping him. Please continue.
We started doing search and rescue operations. All the while there was mad chaos going on in the city. We were putting ourselves at risk. We wouldn't go out at night because we could hear windows breaking and gunshots going off. The entire city smelled of death and decay. Everyone was on guard. We thought it was a third world country.
Yes, you encountered many horrible conditions, and then you and the other cops were told to investigate a house down the street that was occupied by 4 suspects presumed to have been looting and dealing drugs.
Yes, we were told could be very dangerous, and when we got there was something in their attitude, something that said that they were up to no good, so we arrested them.
But you didn't personally arrest Zeitoun. Isn't it true that an out-of-state police cannot make arrests?
Yes, this is true. I was just there, so we handed them off to the authorities. I'm not aware of anything that happened after that.
So you were just doing your job. What happened after that?
10 minutes after we dropped them off, I was on another boat looking for more people in need, and I don't know what happened after that.
I'm glad you were there for those in need. No further questions, Your Honor.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
In the case of Zeitoun versus the City of New Orleans, the jury finds the defendant